Hello and welcome everyone to this episode of the Afghanistan podcast. Today I was hoping to talk about the 12-day war that took place recently between Iran and Israel. I wanted to look at it especially from the point of view of Iran. How did the ceasefire come into being? How durable is it likely to be, especially given the dirty tactics of Israel and its track record of never actually abiding to any ceasefire it's ever entered into? How the war has impacted Iranian politics and society, both in the immediate and maybe in the longer term as well. I also wanted to have a look at the war through a geopolitical point of view. How has the war impacted alliances in the region? Any alliances that have strengthened or been found wanting? Also, what challenges have risen for Iran going forward? What challenges and opportunities? To discuss this and a lot more, I'm really pleased to announce our guest for today. Joining us today, we have Dr. Hooshang Amirahmadi. Dr. Hooshang is an American Iranian academic, political analyst, and someone who has a deep insight into Iranian political economy, its global development. And I'm really looking forward to this opportunity to speak with Dr. Hooshang. So Hooshang, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Tafhim, and to the Afghanistan for this invitation. I look forward to our interview.
Thank you. Honor is entirely mine. Dr. Hooshang, I was asking you before we started, I really like your name, Hooshang. It's a beautiful name. I've never heard of it before. What's the background of the name? Where does it come from?
Hooshang is a Persian pre-Islamic name, and King Hooshang is a mythical king of Iran. Supposedly goes back to 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. I don't know when. Mythical, and then he is also credited to have discovered fire and agriculture. So it has a very good meaning within the Persian context. And so my name, Hooshang Amirahmadi, Hooshang sort of is the old pre-Islamic, and then Amirahmadi is the Islamic. So my name combines the total history of pre and post, Islamic Iran.
Very true. Dr. Hooshang, would you mind just also taking a moment to tell us a bit more about your background? You have a very interesting CV, basically. I'd love to know a bit more about it.
Sure. Of course, I am a distinguished service professor at Rutgers University in New Jersey, U.S. I got my PhD from Cornell University in international economic development and politics. And I came to this country, to the U.S., back in 1974. That is almost 5 years before the Iranian Revolution of 1979. I came for, of course, education. And after I got my PhD, I sort of returned to Iran a few times, but the situation was such that I never got sort of accepted into the new government processes. So I stayed in the U.S. I still work as a professor at Rutgers. I have over 20-some books edited and single authored, over 200 journal articles refereed and so on. Wow. And have been extensively interviewed throughout the last 40-some years. I just spent over 30 years in my life working very hard in bringing the United States and Iran together. I formed a council called American Iranian Council, and the council brought together some of the most distinguished Americans with us. Like our first chairman was the late Cyrus Vance, the Secretary of the State under Carter, and then over 26 former ambassadors, and then lots of senators, congressmen, big executive of businesses. They all joined us. And so we operated very effectively for many years. In 2000, I invited Madeleine Albright, the Secretary of the State of the time,
Wow.
to a conference of us, and she expressed on behalf of herself and President Clinton regret and expressed an apology, extended an apology to the Iranian people for the wrong U.S. policies in Iran, including the 1953 coup against the Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, which brought the Shah of Iran back from exile to the country. And so I have been very active on the academic front and on the U.S.-Iran relations back in 1992. Starting from then, twice I offered myself as a candidate for president in Iran. But unfortunately, both times they rejected me. And at that time, I didn't have the beard. Maybe I should have put the beard first. So I didn't have the beard yet. But they rejected me anyway. And I regret that rejection, not for myself, for the country, because they approved people who were completely disqualified to run a country as big, as historic, and as important as Iran. This regime has really, honestly, regardless of whether I am in opposition or not, has mismanaged that country tremendously. So I regret that rejections, because I could have done much better. I could have certainly normalized the U.S.-Iran relations. I could have helped reduce tension between Iran and Israel. I could have done a lot of things. I have, by the way, been very much involved in the Arab world as well. Many in the Arab world know me very well. I have, for 20-some years, I've gone back and forth to the Arab world. But in any case, unfortunately, the regime decided to go in a different direction, the result of which everybody can see today. What's happening is very unfortunate. I disagree with what the regime is doing now. I disagree with their direction, policy direction, but that's what it is.
Dr. Hooshang, thank you so much. Your brief introduction has given me so many questions, and we'll see if we can go through them through this interview. I really wanted to talk to you about your nomination for Iranian presidency 3 times. And I was just thinking before the interview how Iran could have been a hugely different country if you had become the president. And we'll talk about that more in detail. I also wanted to ask you, from your experience, and I think your work is amazing, trying to increase dialogue between Iran and America. I think if there's any 2 countries in the world that need to talk more, it's Iran and America. So I think it's really, really amazing the work that you've been doing. In your experience, out of all the presidents in maybe the last 30, 40 years, which American president do you think was more inclined in negotiating with Iran, but also trying to understand Iran's point of view?
It was Bill Clinton in the second term. In the first term, he was a little bit off the track, but thanks to our active participation in U.S. policymaking and also our influence back in Iran, we were able to get the 2 countries in some level of communication, sometimes track 2 diplomacy, track 1 diplomacy, and what we call track 1.5, meaning a mix of government and non-governmental. We were very successful. As I said, even President Clinton expressed regret and apology to Iran for U.S.'s past wrong policies. Unfortunately, however, the Iranian government was not in the right mind at the time. Back in Iran, the so-called reformists, were in power. Mr. Khatami and his people. Unfortunately, these people really, although in talk, in words, they were for normalization, but they made U.S.-Iran relation sort of like a part of their political game, using this relationship, generally speaking, for election purpose. So anytime they were running for president, they were for U.S.-Iran relation. After you were in place, they would do everything in their power to not let that happen. And I suffered tremendously with them, unfortunately. So President Clinton, I would say, had the best opportunity. To maybe everybody's surprise, the second president, I think, was President Obama.
I was going to ask, because Obama was the one who did the JCPOA, so I was wondering what your thoughts are about Obama.
Yeah. But the problem with President Obama was that his view of Iran was really incorrect. His people didn't understand Iran as well as Clinton did.
Really?
And they did not ask for a lot of consultation. And they got into trap with the reformists who were in power. And the reformists derailed Obama from a talk about normalization of relations to discussion over the nuclear issue. And I objected from the very first minute that JCPOA negotiation and the JCPOA itself. For 30-some years, me and my council were focused on dialogue for normalization of relation. And we believed that this dialogue have to be direct and comprehensive. And it should result on a stepwise basis toward normalization and cooperation, all kinds. But unfortunately, with the JCPOA, that whole process was turned around. They got a U-turn in it. They began focusing on a subject that was not even proper as a discussion item between the two countries. Remember, nuclear issue, particularly the enrichment issue, is not a bilateral U.S.-Iran relation issue. It's a multilateral global issue. And that enrichment has a boss globally. It's called IAEA. 180 countries are members there. Iran is a member of NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, and therefore negotiating over a subject that is the essence of NPT was irrelevant. NPT, Iran is a member of NPT. NPT will tell you what are your responsibilities and your obligations, period. Now, U.S. has no business getting involved in this particular issue, except to the international community, IAEA, and the UN Security Council. But for 22 years, these people in Iran followed a completely, not just only wrong, but disastrous policy of negotiating first with European troika, like Germany, France, and England, and then JCPOA 5+1, and then with U.S. there indirectly. In all three cases, Iran got itself not just in a wrong policy process, but in a disastrous process. None of the three delivered. All they did to further increase tension between U.S. and Europe in the one side and Iran on the other. And I objected that from the day one. 22 years ago, I told Iran's then foreign minister, Mr. Kamal Kharrazi, who had asked me if I am for negotiations with Europe back in 3 years ago. I told him, no, I am not for it. And I said, why? You are a man of negotiation. I said, yes, I am a man of negotiation for normalization of relation, not on a single issue like enrichment, which will get you nowhere. And I told them then, sorry, 1 minute. I told them then, listen, Mr. Kharrazi, with enrichment that you are negotiating and you will be negotiating forever, doesn't matter. You have two only options: to clean up the enrichment altogether on the Iranian soil, get a bulldozer and clean it. What happened a few weeks, 2 weeks ago? Or go build a bomb. You have no third option. Absolutely no third option. Either build bomb or clean it up. West will never give you a middle ground option. Unfortunately, they didn't listen until we came here. In JCPOA, in the same way, I objected to do the negotiation with Mr. Trump. I also objected to this negotiation because, again, my philosophy was not negotiation or single issue, particularly enrichment, but on total relation, comprehensive, direct for normalization.
Dr. Hooshang, this is so interesting, but it's also, for me, is counterintuitive. So are you saying that I've always found it surprising how the uranium enrichment is such a key issue in the discussions between Iran and USA. But I always thought the blame on that goes to USA, who insists on dealing with this issue before anything else. But are you blaming the Iranian side that they are the ones who made this a single issue negotiation?
Yes, I categorically
Really
blame Iran, 100%. I tell you why. Americans were following their own national interests. For them, enrichment issue was a pretext to bring the world together against the Islamic Republic because it had that capability of creating a global coalition against Iran because it was nuclear, it was bomb, and it was this kind of stuff. Iran never understood this fact that enrichment for the U.S. was not a real issue. It was not a real issue. For 24 years, 3 years now, U.S. spy operation, all of their, underground and overground secret operations, always, every year, have reported that Iran, after 2003, has never been even thinking about developing a bomb.
Yeah.
For 23 years. And yet this government in Iraq will go and negotiate for what? The problem is the U.S. wanted that to happen. And the biggest issue is Iran did not understand that you cannot be a member of NPT and then negotiate that same subject of this NPT with a country. I mean, if you are a member of NPT, then you are a member. And that NPT decides what is your obligation, what is your responsibility. If that is not what to happen, then come out of NPT. Come out of NPT,
yes.
Free yourself and see what will. You see, in JCPOA, right in the middle of the document, there is a paragraph. The paragraph says, this particular agreement is written outside NPT. That's very important. JCPOA was written outside NPT, and it did not apply to any country in the world except Iran.
Yeah.
You see? Because you cannot be a member of NPT and then negotiate. Unfortunately, the Iranian diplomatic community, I believe, was really dumb. It acted like a child. They really acted like a child, and they are still acting like a child. They didn't understand what they are doing.
Hey there. I hope you're enjoying this episode. Let me just take a moment to introduce our sponsors for today. This episode is kindly being sponsored by the Worldwide Listings Company Limited, or WLC for short. WLC is a complete A to Z Amazon account management service. So if you're looking to start an e-commerce business, or you already have a business that you want to take to the next level, then get in touch and WLC will be able to help. Just for transparency purposes, let me also mention that WLC is a company that I personally created and am a director of. So when you get in touch with WLC, you will be speaking with directly myself or my team, and we very much look forward to speaking with you to see how we can serve your needs. Thank you. And with that said, let's get back to the episode. This is really interesting. I wanted to ask you actually that why, I wanted to ask you from maybe a cultural point of view or Iranian revolution point of view, why Iran is so insistent in uranium enrichment. But I think what you're saying, the two options that you're saying, logically, they're so right that either end this uranium project or develop nuclear weapons. Trying to be in between the two options, I think is never going to be possible.
Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, the total Iranian government, from the top to bottom, the government, I would say even the regime, is not thinking well. Their mindset is set in the wrong direction. I think, let me give you a few examples. They will see how bad the situation in Iran is from a policy perspective. Mm-hmm. For one thing, as far as the negotiation goes, as I said, they were negotiating on something that was part of NPT, which was wrong to begin with. Second, in the negotiation, they are asked, why do you want this enrichment? The answer, we want to produce nuclear energy. And then great. But then they will say, okay, all you have to do is to give me 300 kilograms of enriched uranium at 3.5%, and we are settled. Just what happened in JCPOA. Now, dumb. Listen to this. Even a single 1,000 megawatt of nuclear plant would require annually 27,000 kilograms of enriched uranium at 3.5%. You dumb. You go sit there, you say, I want to produce energy, and then you ask for 350 kilograms. While you should have been asking at least for 27,000 kilograms. What happened? The West got suspicious. I said, this dumb people, they know that you cannot do anything with 350 kilogram of enriched uranium, except for one reason.
Make a bomb.
Yeah, escape from there toward bomb. Yeah. Escape from it, because for 400 or 500 kilograms of enriched uranium, you could always build bomb. You could escape out, gradually move to that direction. But with 350 kilograms, you will never, ever produce energy.
I've heard a lot of points and counter arguments made by both sides, but I've not heard of this before. So this is really something I'm going to look into. Professor Hooshang, I wanted to ask you, so I asked you, in your opinion, which was the USA president most likely to engage sincerely with Iran? But I also wanted to then counter that and ask you, from an Iranian point of view, which president do you think was most likely to be a strong negotiator who could actually settle things with America? I thought you were going to say Khatmi, but I'm guessing you're not.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to. Okay, I don't know what happened. Okay.
It's okay. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, no problem. Okay.
Did you get the question, or shall I repeat it?
No, I was telling that first, let me tell you. First, the reformist government, the president like Rafsanjani, Khatami, Rouhani, now Pezeshkian, they always, as I said, have said that they want relation improved. But in reality, in practice, they really harmed this relationship more than any other government. I think they one president that could have.
Are you going to say Ahmadinejad?
Huh?
Are you going to say Ahmadinejad?
Absolutely.
Really?
I think Ahmadinejad was the only real one that could have solved this problem honorably and in the best interest of both governments. Because Ahmadinejad was a little bit of a courageous guy, you know. Regardless of how mindless he was, he was the man of action, and he was he could have done it. I think. I mean, from my perspective, Ahmadinejad could have done it better than any of them, and the others not only could have not done it, they actually harmed the relationship. So that's about this. And then remember, by the way, I have to say this. I believe, regardless of what you think about President Trump, from the day one, the first term, when he became president, I told the Iranian government, and I told the Iranian government directly and indirectly through my media activities, that Mr. Trump is both a threat and an opportunity. That this man can be a tremendous threat to the country's, well-being as well as its, existence even. But at the same time, he is probably the best opportunity if you knew how to work with it. Mr. Trump, incidentally, is the kind of person that is more amenable, more interested in a comprehensive, direct negotiation toward normalization and economic cooperation than toward like enrichment issue. Again, the Islamic Republic got this man in the wrong direction. I told them, don't negotiate with Mr. Trump on the enrichment issue. Please don't. It's dangerous. That's where he becomes dangerous. What you have to do is, if you wanted to negotiate, when I want you to negotiate with him directly, comprehensively, toward normalization of relation. Unfortunately, again, the Islamic Republic for 23 years has been addicted to negotiation over enrichment. It was an addiction that had nothing in terms of thought, strategy, anything behind it. It was an addiction that every government will negotiate nuclear, bad or good, is gone, and then get some money back, some sanctions lifted, and then go back to the square one again. I mean, it was a disaster. It's a disaster. The Islamic Republic's nuclear policy has been a disaster policy. It is really a disaster.
Dr. Hooshang, tell me this, like in the political spectrum that exists within Iran, where do you personally sit, just so that I can get a better idea of what we're talking about?
I'm sorry, what?
In the wider political spectrum that exists within Iran, where do you see yourself, your own? Yeah.
I'm a social democrat.
Okay.
All right. Ideologically, I'm a social democrat. In true sense of social democracy that exists in the West sometimes, in Scandinavian countries and so on.
So, if you actually were to run for Iranian presidency, as you applied 3 times, would you have been able to take the Iranian system as it was? Like, would you be able to bolster the system that exists, or are you so anti the system that you don't see yourself kind of fitting into it?
Yes, this system would not work for me, and I cannot work with this system. And I'm being very honest. I believe, to begin with, the Iranian political system is, of course, a religious, theocratic system. And I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
I have said it very openly. I have nothing against Islam. I am a Muslim. I'm very proud of Islam. Islam, just like any religion, is a private matter of people. It was wrong from the day one for them to get Islam into the state. So that's the first thing I would have done if I had become president. I would have brought together a council of ayatollahs together with me. I would have told them what this Islamic ideology in the state has done to Iran, all of the plus minuses, and then I show that, unfortunately, at the end of the day, it hasn't worked well. So I would have asked them to get together to make an assessment themselves of the role of Islam in the state. I believe I would have convinced them to de-religicize the state. It's the religion and the side of the state and this what I call civil society, the spirituality, and they should work there and they should continue being there. But in the state, that's one problem. The second problem, aside from the political system, I have problem with Iran's economic system.
Yeah.
Again, I have nothing against capitalism. It's okay. But there are capitalism of A and a capitalism of B. Capitalism of A is a capitalism that you have like in some of the European countries, in Scandinavian countries, even a part of China and so on. I have no problem with private property. I have no problem with market and all that. But however, there is a point beyond which you cannot trust capitalism, and particularly the type of capitalism that they have built in Iran, which I call neoliberal capitalism. And neoliberal capitalism, I believe, is the enemy of people. As we speak, almost 70% of Iranians live on or below poverty line. And yet, 20% of that same population are so affluent, so rich, that you cannot even get them in Europe. Yeah. Go to some of the northern part of the country, a country and Tehran, you will see what I mean. Absolutely super ultra rich in billions. I don't believe in that kind of capitalism. I believe what they call a capitalism with a human face.
Yeah.
Capitalism with a human face. Unfortunately, I would have changed that if I had become president.
I see what you mean, but I'm thinking 30% at the top is quite a big percentage, because in the West now we're saying all the money, all the power is sitting between like the top 1%, not 30%.
Yeah. See, it is not the 30%. After 70%, as I said, either under the poverty line or on it.
Then you have
and if there is 20% or at least 15%, people who I call the middle class are struggling.
Yeah.
But some of them become richer and the other become poorer and join that 70%. There is the 15-20% of the population that really controls the country, and I call them the mafia group, the mafia of power and wealth. A mafia of power and wealth in this country or others, we call them, I don't know, oligarchs. But they are not just oligarchs. They are thieves. They steal, they rob. These are people who openly steal people's money. They openly, in the name of privatization, take public property and make them their own private property. I would have stopped this. I would have stopped it. I would have nationalized banks. I would have nationalized foreign trade. I would nationalize the large industries, big ones, the strategic industries. But I would have kept quite a bit of a trade, particularly internal, and some of the banks also private. But I wouldn't do what it did. Remember, the Islamic, what I am saying is not too far off from the original Islamic revolution's idea. It is not far off from the original constitution.
Yeah.
In the constitution, the Article 44 of this constitution of Iran tells you that foreign trade is nationalized. Banks are nationalized. Sort of like heavy industries or so-called the modern industries are nationalized. But what you have in Iran, they're all privatized. They're all private. So I would have not done anything that was very much against the constitution. I would have just followed the constitution and created a social democracy. Indeed, the Iranian constitution is really a social democratic constitution, except for the fact of the role of religion. If you were to take the religion out and apply the constitution, you really basically have Scandinavian countries. That's true, honest. But that religious part creates mess.
Yes. I agree. How popular do you think? I mean, it's obviously now we've had this 12-day war. So naturally there's a spirit of unity in the country, like any country under attack would be. But in normal times, how popular do you think this government or this system is? Because from outside, it's hard to filter out fact from propaganda from both the Western side and also from within the country. So in your opinion, knowing what you know about Iran, how popular is the government?
Yeah. First, let me tell you something that it may surprise you. I believe Israel and the United States did not attack the Islamic regime, the Islamic government. It attacked Iran. They are very different. I would explain. They attacked Iran's power. They did not attack the regime. Not a single mullah, not a single executive branch official, not a single person in the legislative or in the judicial, not a single one of them were targeted by Israel or the U.S.
What about
who they targeted? No? Who they targeted was all the commanders of the army, the commanders of the Revolutionary Guard, the nuclear scientists, and people that were working with them in, institutions of research and development. And what they destroyed was the nuclear facilities, missile facilities, ground facilities, and all of those other facilities that were working with them. As you can see, it was not a war against the Islamic Republic as a regime. It was a war against Iran, and specifically Iran's power. And that explains why the Iranian people stood against the invaders, so-called the attackers. They were against them because they saw that these attacks were not on the regime. this attack was on the people and the government, on the country and its power. So this is a fact. As I speak now, the same regime that supposedly was destroyed and was attacked is now negotiating with the U.S. toward normalization, and it is negotiating indirectly with Israel toward ceasefire and continuation of that and the rest of it. I believe strongly it is possible that the Islamic Republic actually made a deal with the U.S. and Israel to destroy Iran's power so that the regime can stay. Now, history will tell you, I am not a person of conspiracy theory. I have a very, very deep understanding of Iran, and I have a very deep understanding of international relations and the scenes behind. I can assure you that this war happened as a result of a deal between the regime, Israel, and the United States. I believe they asked the United States to come and destroy these sites, Fardo and others. As I said, for 22 years, they were in a trap, in this stupid policy of, no, I want an enrichment. And then the other say was, no, you have to clean it up. At the end, they could not themselves clean it up. The regime, I mean. They asked the U.S. to do it. Now they can tell the Iranian people, listen, we tried our best to keep the enrichment. It is your right. But this imperialist country called America and this Zionist country called Israel and came destroy your property. That's the propaganda. The reality, that's not true. The reality is that they made a deal with Israel and the United States. And history will prove me right. And probably I am the only one who will tell you this.
This is, you've left me a little bit speechless. But your explanation of it, I can't entirely reject it. Because, so are you saying the deal was just the elimination of the enrichment program, not the weakening of the missile system, the army, the military might of Iran? Because Iran is much stronger than the deal before.
Yeah, the deal with the U.S. was to eliminate the nuclear. With Israel, it was, of course, beyond that, to eliminate some of the revolutionary guard commanders, which the mullahs hate. Remember, mullahs hate military people.
Professor, one of my questions I was actually going to ask you, what is the center of power in Iran? Is it the politicians, the clerics, or the IRGC? Because I've heard that increasingly the power is shifting to the IRGC.
The answer is the clerics.
The
clerics. The very, very, very top of the system sits Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, a cleric. He is basically the chief of everything, the three branches of economy and the army. He's the commander-in-chief of Iran's armed forces. So the guy that controls everything is this clergy, plus, of course, cleric, plus all the clergies that work with the cleric. So, because remember, this is an Islamic republic, is a theocracy. In a theocracy, theocrat rules. Just like back in the 12th century when the church was ruling Europe, it was the Pope and the cardinals with him. Now, in Iran, it's just the same. It's just like the Vatican. Iran is a Vatican. It is an Islamic Vatican. It is the Pope is Mr. Khamenei, and the cardinals are all the clergies, and then they have all this, their operators, military operators, executive operators, legislative operators, judicial operators, and the rest of it. So the power in Iran is in the hands of the clergies, period, for now.
Is it the fact that the IRGC are getting more and more powerful and they're taking a lot of power away from the clerics, do you think, or no?
I think, of course, the IRGC is a military force. And of course, it has been tremendously ideologized. That is, they are brainwashed, generally speaking. Yet, regardless of how much you brainwash a military person, at the end of the day, that person is a military person. Yeah. That as a military person, they tend to be nationalistic, patriot, because they are in the front of the war. They are patriot, okay, because their body is at danger, their life is in danger. They also are more pragmatic than the clergies. They are not all that. For example, a revolutionary guard commander cannot sit and pray that his helicopter should fly or his gun shoot. Okay, no, but you can't do that. Your gun should shoot and your helicopter should fly. You just can't pray for it. So they are more pragmatic than these guys. But both of this goes against the clergy. The clergy is ideological. The clergy is not national patriot. Remember, Islam is not a religion of a country. Islam a global religion. Islam is not the religion of Iran. We have Shia, which is 400 million out of 1.6 billion Muslims throughout the world. So Islam, that body, is a global force, and Iran a part of that. In fact, the clergies used to say Iran is the content of something that is called container. So you have a container. This is a container. Mm-hmm. I have put tea in it. I could throw this away, put coffee in it. Could throw that away, put water in it. This container is Islam. What is in it becomes Iran, becomes Saudi Arabia, becomes, I don't know, any other country. So in Iran, the container is Islam, the contained is the country. Right. And that is why they are not nationalistic. They are internationalistic.
Yeah.
Islam is an international religion. It's an internationalist idea. It is not an idea of a country, just like Christianity, just like Judaism. So,
how from how I see it, as someone who has lived in Pakistan many years, have relatives in Pakistan, so from a neighbor point of view, from someone who's interested in politics and geopolitics, and someone who happens to be a Muslim, albeit a Sunni Muslim, the way I see it, I have full sympathy for Iran from a geopolitical point of view, from a political point of view, from the point of view of Iran's sovereignty and autonomy. But just as an observer, as a Muslim observer, I do think a clerical government will actually weaken Islam within Iran. I fear if this system goes, the result will be a completely secular society, which will be a reaction to the government that we have, the system that we have at the moment. I think it's kind of like a mirror reflection to what we had in Turkey, where there was like aggressive secularism. But when you go to the mosques are overflowing because people don't want religion or secularism rammed down their throat. State should be there to protect people and to facilitate people, not to brainwash people in some ways. So I do see that point of view, I think. But obviously, from my point of view, it's an internal Iranian matter how they deal with it, Iranian people. But I do think that having a religious clerical government is going to have, from a religious point of view, it's going to have the opposite point of effect from what they're trying to achieve.
In the Islamic world, we have always failed to create a balance, okay, between the secularism and the spiritual life.
Yep.
We tend to go in either direction on an extreme way. Under the Shah, it was the extreme of secular.
Yes.
Under the Khamenei is the extreme of religiosity. And both of them are reactive, not
Yes.
proactive. They are reactive forces. And that is the problem. Any process that is reactive is bad. Okay, it's really backward. You have to be proactive in everything you do. So, unfortunately, in Iran, well, back in 1953, 57, I'm sorry, 1950s, 1979, I mean to say, in Iran, Western date, there was a reaction toward that extreme secularism and that the pro-Western, culture, way of life, and so they went reactive toward this Islamic side.
Yeah, so it's like a pendulum, exactly.
Yes. Now, exact the opposite is happening in Iran.
Mhm.
Although the regime still has, I believe, about 20% of the population on its side, not more really. But even that 20% is rethinking about religiosity and religion in the state. Religion as religion of the people, there is no problem. Still, even today, Iranians are Muslim. They pray, they go to their mosque, they have all of the things. But politically, I think most Iranians, I would say over 80% of Iranians are not religious anymore. Politically, they don't want a religion in their state. And this number is increasing, particularly among the younger Iranians. The younger Iranians are really, truly secular. Okay. And, but at the same time, okay, they have, I believe, have tried to understand this Islamic Republic and religion and the balance between nationalism or patriotism in specific terms and religion. Iranians, generally speaking, used to be patriot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, over the last 45 years, this religious government destroyed patriotism in Iran and tried to make them pro-Islam and globalist in that term. I believe we have a return to Iranian patriotism.
Yes.
I believe because Iranians, particularly younger generation, feel very humiliated. Iran has been increasingly humiliated. Listen, over the last 12 war, no country has been as humiliated as Iran in the history. Iran, it was really a humiliation of a small country like Israel come on 12 days and just take over your sky and do whatever it wants and then go home. But listen to this. I believe this patriotism in Iran, if it is not soon, okay, become the ideology of the country that is to become hegemonic, we could witness in Iran a movement I call Iranian national fascism. Remember, fascism is the product of humiliation.
And there would have to be another reactionary government, a third reactionary government.
That's right. See, I believe Al-Qaeda, Taliban, all of these religious fanatics, they were a reactive movement, reaction toward the kind of humiliation that the Western colonialism imposed on them. After the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, the Islamic world fell in the hands of this colonial European power. And this colonial power did everything in their power, not just to rip off their resources, but to humiliate them.
Yes.
And that humiliation created all these religious fanatics or radicals.
Yeah.
In Iran, we are witnessing the same. This time, however, that fanatic is not a religious guy, is a nationalist or a patriot Iranian.
I think you're right.
I believe that is ahead of us.
Do you think this system, the government, the revolutionary government, is there capacity within the government to adapt to the changing society in Iran, or do you think that they will stay the way they are until the end?
I think they will stay the way to the end as far as inside goes. But outside, internationally, they will increasingly be submitting to the powers of the world. They are going to become increasingly a servant, a colony of the Europe and the US. Unfortunately, I am very disappointed at this government. Domestically, it suppresses the people. Internationally, it allows the international community to suppress the government. The government of Iran is suppressed, is defeated and submitted to the West, and yet that same defeated government has gone over the people to submit the people. So domestically, I don't see a change. Internationally, I can see next year, this time, US and Iran have diplomatic ties. I could see that. I could see in few years, Iran have relation even with Israel under the rubric of the Abraham Accord. Could be part of that. I could see in a few years, Iran, that's the Islamic Republic, said, what the hell with Palestinians? They are the wrong people. Let Israel finish them. They already are at that point. So I think I see this regime internationally increasingly and extremely right and subservient and colonized. But domestically, they will stay where it is.
If this happens, what you're saying, it's going to increase the feeling of humility, embarrassment within the Iranian population, and it's going to increase the nationalism that you're talking about. And it's going to take Iran further into that direction. That is,
in fact, in Iran, one of the biggest slogans in the streets of Tehran recently has been, the enemy is in, not out. The enemy is here. Don't look for it outside. The Iranian people have increasingly recognized that their enemy is this very regime, not Israel and America, because America and Israel and European act and work through this regime. That is
one thing I wanted to ask. So, not talk to discuss how this government might deal with Israel in the future, and also, so within the reality that we have, in your opinion, what's the best way for this government to deal with Israel? Should it capitulate? Should it resist? Should it negotiate? Can it negotiate? What do you think should happen?
Unfortunately, I have to say the regime has no option anymore to decide what to do. It is the Israel that will decide on this option for the regime in Iran. There was a time the regime could have made that decision, what kind of relation to have with Israel. Now it is Israel that dictating the terms of that relationship with Iran. So that's a very disappointing statement I'm making, but I understand it, and I'm talking very carefully and thoughtfully, as opposed to in terms of propaganda. So I think Iran, as we speak, is a defeated country. Whatever the Islamic Republic says, let them say. We won, we did, and that, that's propaganda. Iran is a defeated country. It was defeated by Israel and the US. And just like any defeated country, they will take the conditions. Okay, they cannot impose conditions. So unfortunately, as a defeated country, Iran will have to accept the terms of the relationship with the US and with Israel and Europe. That's just a fact of life in Iran. Now, the Iranian people, I believe, are very nationalistic. I think they are going to react to this, and that is extremely dangerous for the regime. But unfortunately, also in Iran, we have two groups in the country that are standing against each other for the future of Iran. Give me 1 second, a little bit time to explain, because it's good. Back in 1953, Iran had a revolution called Islamic Revolution.
Yeah.
The leader of that revolution was Khomeini. And Khomeini was supported in the revolution both by the Iranian people and the Western governments, which decided that Shah has to go. I called Khomeini's Islam won. Islam won. Islam won was a revolutionary, radical Islam. But that very Islam, because it was supported by the West, had also another mission. And the mission was to destroy secular, socialist, nationalist, and patriot Iranians. And that mission was accomplished. However, after this Islam won accomplished this mission, it turned against the West. US, Israel, and Europe, just like in the same way that Al-Qaeda was created by the US against Russia. After Russia left, Al-Qaeda turned against America and started fighting the US. In Iran, exact the same thing happened. Islam won after it accomplished its missions to destroy socialism, secularism, patriotism, and so on, went against US and West. But then US and West did not sit aside to watch what was happening in Iran. They gradually and immediately infiltrated this Islam won. They created their own spies, fifth column people, and pro-West, and so on. In the process of almost 25, 30 years, the West, with its people inside, fifth column, the infiltrators and so on, and the pro-Western Iranians, created what I call Islam 2. Khomeini, Islam was Islam 1. I told you what was the mission, what it did. Now we have that in Iran, we have an Islam called Islam 2. Islam 2 obviously continues to be against secular socialists and so on. But Islam 2's main mission is to destroy Islam 1.
Right.
Islam 2's main mission is to destroy Islam 1. That is the radical Islam. All right? And I believe now in Iran, what you have in the government and the regime is a complete takeover by Islam 2 people. So Islam 2 people are pro-West, infiltrators of the West, spies of the West, and the people of wealth and power, the mafia of wealth and power. They have support of Israel, they have the support of the US and Western countries. That is Islam 1. Now, Islam 2. So Islam 2 now has a coalition of all of these people, plus also the royalists who are supposedly wanted to overthrow the regime. Remember, the royalists are on the side of Israel and Europe. And Israel, as I said, is in the side of the Islam 2. In the other hand, you have Islam 1 with the same revolutionary Islam. Some of them are destroyed, others still exist. They are in the Revolutionary Guard, they are in the average Iranian, they are in radical Islamists, and among the patriots Iranian. So in the future, the fight in Iran is between these two groups. Islam 1 plus patriots and the people in the one side, and Islam 2, which I told you who they are, plus US and the West. And this is the struggle in Iran for its soul. It's Iran's soul as we move forward. That is the struggle. My hope, of course, is that Islam 1, with its coalition with the Patriot, will win. And I believe it will, because it has 60%, 70% of the Iranian people on its side. The poor people, the working class, the peasants, the religious faith. So I am hopeful for Iran. I believe the biggest enemy of Iran today is Islam 2. Islam 2 is the biggest enemy of Iran. The best friend of Iran still are Islam 1 plus the patriots. That's how I have theorized the next Iranian revolution.
This is so interesting, and it's such a good way that you explained such a complicated setup. So, in your opinion, is there a leader for this Islam 1? Is it led by one or two people that we would know of?
Unfortunately, Islam 1 doesn't have the real good people as leader. The only leader from the Islam 1 would either come from the patriots or from the military. The patriots and the military can offer leadership in this particular camp, but Islam 1 itself, unfortunately, has lost its capability to lead a revolution again in Iran. That's impossible. So I call always on Islam 1 to come behind the patriots and bring in the militaries. On the other side, unfortunately, however, there are lots of leaders, from Mr. Pezeshkian, Iran's president, to Mr. Khamenei, and all of the government operators. They are all in Islam 2. Islam 2 is running the country everywhere. So therefore, as we speak, they are very powerful. They are on the top. But as we move forward, I believe Islam 1, with the patriot and the military people, will win this fight.
Pastor Hooshang, first of all, I really want to thank you for your time and your analysis. I must have tired you out because we had a lengthy discussion, but I really appreciate all of the points of views that you expressed. If you don't mind, I just wanted to ask you one last question, which is that when we have a transition after the current rubber, and when we have a third leader after Khamenei, do you think we're going to continue in the same direction, or do you think that will be the opportunity to change things around?
Mr. Khamenei is, for all practical purposes, is finished. He is a symbol. Some people, as I said, maybe even up to 20% of the Iranians respect him, like him, and so on. But he, as a leader, is finished. He is finished even within Islam 2, where his regime now is located. And, of course, in Islam 1 or among the patriots. He has no, what I call, effective presence in the country beyond the symbolic presence. I believe the Islam 2 people, who are pro-Western people, the people, as I said, made the deal with Israel and the US to hit Iran. These are Islam 2 people, Islam 2 people. They made a deal with Israel and the US in this war. these people, and they have the mafia in the country, the mafia of power and wealth. They are in control. But I believe their control will soon disappear because no amount of support from Iran, from West, can save Iran's economy, can save Iranian people's life. That has been destroyed beyond repair. And beyond that, any help, even if U.S. and Iran were normalized, and U.S. was to, put billions of dollars of investment in Iran, which I doubt they will not, even if they were to do that, they will not be able to make a positive impact on the average Iranian. The example of the situation is very much like what you have in Egypt.
Yes.
And even in Pakistan, but in Egypt in particular.
Yes.
But that's average Egyptian is a poor person.
Yes.
Is below poverty line.
Yeah.
So even if Iran was to establish the best relation with the U.S., Iran is not going to become Saudi Arabia or Emirates. It's going to become Egypt or Pakistan, for example.
Absolutely.
That will not be enough for Iranian people.
Yeah.
They would reject that kind of an Iranian.
Professor Hooshang, with your views, because you have a lot of contacts in the Iranian government, with your views, do they still listen to you, or are you blocked on all the phone numbers now?
Okay, well, thanks God. Let me tell you one thing. This is not that. I have on my Instagram, I have every month, this particular month that I'm talking about now, I have 8.3 million viewers.
Wow.
8.3 million viewers only on Instagram. Hooshang Amirahmadi, you can go and see.
Wow.
And that does not include other social media networks. I believe together I have probably about between, I'm not exaggerating, 15 to 20 million, I don't know, viewers. So people are listening to me. But, I am a very open person. I am a very transparent, and I am a social democrat, patriot and all that. People like it. But that Islam too is my enemy. There are three groups of my enemies. Islam too, the royalists, the Shah's son and so on, and their group. And of course, this old, Mujahideen, that worked with Saddam Hussein and so on.
Yeah.
These are my sworn enemies. One day they are going to assassinate me, I can promise you. But I don't care, I have aged enough not to care. I always say I would love to die in the street, not in the bed. I think people, I love to die in the street as opposed to in the bed, because at the end of the day, I'm going to die one day soon.
Yes.
It would be better to die in the street. But in any case, I am not afraid. I am not afraid of them. I am not afraid of them because I believe at least 70% of the Iranians behind my ideas, not me. I am not claiming that 70% of the people are behind me. My ideas have 70% of the people behind it, because this is patriotic, revolutionary, just, and all that. I want for Iran an independent country, a country of social justice, and I want a country. I don't mind capitalism, but I wanted the kind of capitalism that has a human face. I wanted that 70% of the people at least get 1/5 of what that the mafia is getting. 150.
Yeah.
But they are not. That's not fair. That's not Islamic. That is not anything.
Yes.
But it's not even capitalist. But in any case,
I'm really pleased to hear that you said that the royalists are against you, because I was wondering what you think about that camp, because I don't think that has any really legitimate right or following left in the country. And it would be going backwards if we go back in that direction.
You were talking about the Renaissance?
The son of the Shah.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
The son of Raza Pahlavi.
Oh, okay. I think he's a junk. he's a dumb guy. He is tremendously a subservient to Israel.
Yes.
He is in fact a servant of Israel. He's anti-Iran, he's anti-patriot, and I'm sure the Iranian people will never ever let him even put feet in Iranian soil, on Iranian soil. To me, he is finished. And I don't give, but he works through Islam too. Don't misunderstand. Pahlavi guy is an Islam too guy. He works with the Islam too. What we used to call in the beginning of the revolution, we used to call the American Islam. The American Islam, as opposed to the pure Islam of Muhammad. In the beginning of the revolution, Khomeini would call all the liberals. He said, they are the American Islam, and I am the pure Muhammadian Islam. So the Islam 1 and Islam 2. So the Shah's son is Islam 2 guy.
Professor Hooshang, I really enjoyed our conversation. You've given me so much food for thought. I'm going to go and study a lot of these things that I've heard from you, and I'm sure the same will be the case for our viewers. I'd love to have you back one day. I really enjoyed this conversation. Would you have any words to say before we sign off? And also, please do share any social media links with us, because I'd love to put them in the notes so that people can follow you and see your work.
Thank you. First, I wanted to thank your organization and you personally.
Thank you.
Afghanistan and Mr. Tafhim. I appreciate that. And I am very honored to have been speaking in the last hour or so with your viewers. And obviously, this is not a direct. This is direct or indirect? This was recorded to be.
It's recorded. It's not live. It's not live.
It is not. It is recorded.
Yes, but it will go out in a day or so.
It did not air. When would you air, by the way?
It's going to go on YouTube, on Spotify, and then we'll have some shorts on TikTok and Instagram, etc. I'll send you links, definitely.
Yeah, please send me a link.
Okay? Definitely.
Yes, I wanted to tell your viewers that please support the people of Iran, against its enemies. I believe the West and Israel is being unjust toward the Iranian people. Iran has the right to have power, defensive power. Nobody has the right to destroy the defensive power of a nation. Over the last 200 years, Iran has not invaded any country.
True.
In 200 years. We have been invaded for at least for 200 years. But I have to tell you one thing. That may soon be over. Because remember, in this world, either you are powerful or you are destroyed. Unfortunately, the world today is the world of power. And that's it. I believe Iran has to build power to stay alive. And I want your people, your supporters, to support the Iranian people as they rebuild their defensive power and their economy and their politics toward a social democratic nation. And I also will be there to take participation in anything you guys do. I would be honored to speak with you again and all that.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hooshang. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.